Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts. And so this is pre-market prep for Friday, April 4th. And yeah, just going to be diving into some charts. Pretty excited about today, actually, because yesterday was so volatile. And yeah, I mean, you can see that here in the UVIX, which is the 2x long VIX futures ETF, closed at a price of $52.60, and the high for the day was 52.90, being up nearly 50% in one day. Pretty remarkable. And yeah, closed the day up 48.92%, and then it's actually continuing up, oh my gosh, 15% in the pre-market. It's above 60. It's currently at 60.70, so pretty remarkable. And yeah, I have to say that, maybe I'm wrong about this, but this has really convinced me that, I should, be partaking more so in these like 2 week cycles where it goes up for 2 weeks and then comes down for 2 weeks. And that really just followed, when I started tracking this cycle after August 5th, when markets did go up to, $199.70 for the UVIX, I should say. The UVIX went up that high. And yeah, and so there's actually a few comparisons that I wanted to do, kind of like looking at maybe there's some bullish divergence in the stock market relative to some of these other indexes. So the UVIX is an ETF, so I don't know that this one will be that useful, but kind of wanted to do a little bit of a comparison with the VIX because that is the market volatility index, which closed yesterday at a price of $30.02, being up nearly 40% on the day, closing the day at 39.56% up. It does not have pre-market or after-hours trading with this one, and I suspect it will be gapping up once the market opens. And my little doodle from yesterday, thinking about this, would be coming up to 28.32, which was the high that we hit back here on December 18th. That did happen. We closed well above it, as you can see, almost $2 above, and I suspect we will be opening more than $2 above. So that is pretty cool. Where is this going to be going? I have no idea. I suspect it will be continuing higher, but I don't think it will be going as high as it hit back on August 5th when it hit a high of 65.73. And so that's really kind of the comparison that I wanted, just to get an idea that the VIX, which is, the market volatility index, so the higher this goes, the more bearish the sentiment is in the market. Things are gapping down and the VIX is gapping up. And so this is kind of an inverse indicator. And so this would make me think, this is lower highs. And so that would make me think, we could flip this around, compare it with the SPX, and kind of look at the lows there. And then this might be a bullish indicator if once this does top out, it's not higher than 65.73. So that will be very interesting to look at, but did want to come back to the UVIX here real quick, just to throw up the 10-minute time frame here. We can see hit a high in the pre-market of 61.27. So going up pretty massively there. A gap up from the after hours, which was more or less flat, pulling back a little bit, then gap up into the pre-market above 54.60 and, above 60, 61.24 currently, up over 16, almost 16.5% in the pre-market. So pretty remarkable. We'll have to check back at the end of this video. So I suspect that we will probably be topping soon, as the green box is nearly towards the end there. This is a 2-week box, 10 trading days. And back here, this was a little bit longer than 10 days. That was 13 trading days. And then if we look over at this red box here, I believe that was exactly 10 trading days. So 2 weeks. They're all approximate. I do adjust them based on, the lows, the highs. But I'm not always right. Sometimes they are shorter than 2 weeks. And so what I started to do is actually pick up some SVIX yesterday. So I had an alert here at 18. Let's see, $18, I believe. And we are below that now. I picked up some there and I've incrementally been buying. I now have about $200 worth. Just kind of wanting to partake in the thesis that markets, the volatility, I should say, will be topping soon. And so I wanted to partake in this. And I should actually adjust this below level to be not 18, but 1491. And the reason for that, I do not have a buy order placed there, but that is being down 10% for myself. And actually, dang it, looking at the pre-market trading, so far we've hit a low of 1491. So that's kind of funny that within the past 10 minutes it's hit a low currently at 1492. So that's kind of funny. So I'm down 10% on my position. But looking at this on the daily, really coming from over here, going from that low, this is the 13 days, this is 10 days corresponding with the red box in the UVIX over here, which was 10 days long. And so that, up about 30%. Of course, I'm not going to time the bottom exactly, not going to time the top exactly. And so I've started to accumulate a position in the SVIX, thinking that this will be topping. I could be really underwater come Monday, but it's $200 so far, and I don't really plan on adding until next week, I would say, see how the market gaps up or down into Monday. I suspect there will be a gap. But yeah, if this move is 31.5% and I don't time the bottom exactly, let's see. I don't know why this. Okay, so something like that. So let's see. I don't get the bottom exactly, but I go up to the top. So if I don't get the bottom exactly right there, that's not timing the bottom exactly. I started to, let's say hypothetically, buy the dip over here. There's still 20% upside potential. And if I want to be conservative, I could, let's say, time the bottom there. And then I trim out at about 10% profit. So this is really just for a swing trade, $200. So 10%, I'd make $20. 20%, I'd make $40. No big deal, just trying to get better at practicing this, and I do have a plan to add more. So I haven't put everything into it. I'm just chilling, and we are now, below 1491. So, I think that's actually, I think I had an alert go off, and I'm just going to see what that alert was. It was actually Nvidia coming down by 1.77%, hitting, it's now sub $100 a share, Nvidia. I was just checking my phone. And so, yeah, that's actually, let's just pull up Nvidia real quick. I got to get headed to work soon, but since I'm talking about it, let's just look at this. Yeah, so I had this alert at $100. It's currently trading in the pre-market at, 96.88. So, yeah. I don't know what's going on, but markets are continuing to tank. I did kind of draw this, what I thought could be maybe, this pattern here. But, so far I've been dead on with this coming down to, sub 100. Maybe this comes down even lower to like 75. I don't know, but this video is not about Nvidia. By the way, I will put a poll out. I'm going to write it on the notepad. Just, so muscle memory, whatever. I'll put out a poll today, and I'll include Nvidia if people want me to cover that. But anyways, coming back to the SVIX, this is down 1476. So yeah, I'm just gonna chill. Gonna relax. No big deal. But with that being said, this has clearly come down. So I got that alert at 1496, and so let's see. Maybe I want to add. Yeah, I'll probably add another alert. Let's say. I'm already down here, so I'll just do 1420 because it includes a 420. Got to have fun with the numbers, and we'll see if that goes off. I suspect it will. We can see it right there. So let's see the 10-minute time frame. So far, 1466. Plummeting, though. what is going on. Let's look over at the SPY. This is the S&P 500 tracking ETF, closed yesterday at a price of $536.70, being down nearly 4%. And yeah, I mean, I think that's nearly 5%, 4.93%, and down an additional 2% in the pre-market. What's going on? I think that this is all, just what has to be going on. So we are now, looks like, filling the gap here. That's at 28.27. This is also based on the dailies. So we need to wait for the market open to actually see that. But I suspect that this is probably coming down to, now let's see, 15.13, and that is based on this Fibonacci extension up here. And that's actually something I wanted to draw over here with the SVIX, just trying to get an idea of, bottom levels. So I had initially drawn something like this for myself, thinking like, hey, 1650, maybe that's a bottom or near a bottom. But then I kind of started to think, well, maybe I could adjust this to be over here like this. This just suggests like a bigger time frame, a bear flag that we're looking at that we have broken down from. And that might suggest where this could be going to. And that's actually remarkable that it ends up being right at 14. I'm just going to make sure that I do have this lined up with the highs and lows. So the low over here is 1781, and this high was 2296. So I'm just going to, let's see if I can remember the 1781. I don't have this lined up right, or at least the high 2342. Okay, so, yep, that's lined up right. And the 100% extension, so if you're wondering how that comes about, that's just this distance from, the high to the low there, and then just move that over from the top there, and that should suggest, a 100% move there. And that remarkably is $14 exactly. I do have my alert at 14.20 just because of that 420. But yeah, maybe 14 is getting near a bottom. I have no idea. But then, yeah, I mean, if this comes down to like 5, I mean, to be honest, I think that's probably, SVIX is probably going to go lower than that. But over here, we have 513 as, a potential bottom here. And what I wanted to look at, is not with the SPY. It's actually with, I was getting ahead of myself, is with the SPX. But we did, see ourselves fill that gap on the 10-minute time frame. We want to see that gap be filled during market hours. I suspect we'll actually be gapping below it. Maybe we bounce up to 528.27, that acts as resistance, and then it continues down. But let's look over at the SPX. This is the S&P 500 index. So let's compare a couple indexes. But first, before I get ahead of myself, I should say that the SPX did close yesterday at a price of $5,396.52, being down 4.84%, nearly 5% on the day. Pretty massive. No pre-market trading with this, but that gap fill would correspond with the price of $5,344.39. And that Fibonacci extension would correspond with a price of around $5,144, also corresponding with the bottoms over here. So we'll see, does that get hit? But what I wanted to look at, I think, is corresponding with this. Yeah, August 5th. So looking at this and then compare this with the VIX. So what we have here is, as long as we stay above $5,119.26, which was the low from August 5th, that means that we are forming higher lows in this index. Okay? Higher lows. And then if we look over at the VIX, sorry, didn't want to adjust that. I'm zooming in because I got so much drawn up there. So I want to look at this relative to this time frame. And maybe I just want to remove my drawing so this is not so overwhelming. Okay, so we do have higher lows there as long as we stay above $5,119.26, which was the low from August 5th for the SPX. And then if we look over at the VIX, we see that we are putting in a lower high so far, as long as we stay below 65.73. And so if we kind of invert this, because actually I don't know if I can invert the y-axis scale. I can't. Let's see. Yeah, it would be cool if I could invert it, but I can't. But anyways, so we could think about this as if this is a low. This is a low as well. That would be a higher low. So that's a higher low. And with the SPX, we still have a higher low. So there's no divergence there. But if we cross this, or if we cross, yeah, I mean, this is really just saying what I guess I'm suggesting is that we could just go a lot lower. But I guess, thinking about like maybe it's because I was looking at the SVIX, this is more or less, this is breaking down, but this is not an index. This is an ETF, which is short the VIX. So yeah, maybe there's nothing there. I just find that interesting to kind of be comparing higher low here and looking at the VIX. This is a lower high, which you could think of as a higher low. And so there is no divergence relative to the SPX. Anyways, I just find that interesting, wanted to mention it. But let's talk about Bitcoin real quick. I do need to be wrapping this up though. This held up better than I expected relative to the stock market. But it is now between these two downtrends that I talk about every morning. Will be interesting to see what the CME gap is over the weekend. I suspect I will be trading that. Don't have time to get into it because I need to be wrapping this up. But yeah, the BITI, which is the short Bitcoin ETF, went up over 5%, almost 6% yesterday, but it's pulling back a little bit. And Bitcoin, I should say, is trading around $83,000. I suspect this is probably going lower, but maybe we see a breakout over the weekend. Who knows? And then Ethereum still trading around 1,800. We'll see if that breaks down. And then URA, ticker symbol URA, which is the Global X Uranium ETF, closed yesterday at 22.46, being down about 3%, but continuing down to around 22 in the pre-market. And I don't have an alert at 22, but I do have this Fibonacci extension at 22.14. So pretty interesting there. But yeah, I got to get headed to work. So I'm going to throw this up there. As always, those are just my thoughts. If you did find them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more pre-market prep like this and, daily videos. Take care, you guys.